So I'm going to carry on with the fruit and veg project, which I think I've only done one session on so far. So mostly it's been drawing. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of a quick demo with some paint. I might make this the last session that I actually demonstrate on this project. But if you want to keep going with it, you know, by all means do that. The project for December, although we're not actually into December yet, is winter and maybe animals related to winter if you want to do that. So I might start that next week. So we will have 1 week short of December anyway with Christmas break. So I kind of bring that one forward, and I'm sensing that some people are ready to move on. So that's what I'll do from there. Yeah, so with this one, I fancy trying one of these sections through a pepper. So the idea of this project is just create some interesting designs, compositions using fruit vegetables or sections through fruit vegetables, or a combination of whole and sections. So that's what I've kind of included here. Just two items. I could add the knife in. I've also got some tomatoes here. So really looking at today, I just sort of thinking more what to paint and just looking at what we had at home. And I've really picked, you know, a selection of red objects. So you've got kind of colour harmony going there. The other thing is like with the different sizes. So obviously tomatoes are a lot smaller. So you've got bigger objects and smaller objects. So just creating a little bit of variety. And could include the knife and the board, which again, a bit of a contrasting materials. So that's how far I've got so far. But so far, I've just drawn in the whole pepper and a half of pepper. So I thought I'd use acrylics because they're nice and straightforward, can work quite quickly. And as ever, what I will probably do is just block in some background, and then once I've got some background in, I'll then do a little bit of detail. So I think probably what I'll do is maybe work on half of it, just to give you more a section through. So I would start with some background colour. So this is a raw sienna, which is a very good colour for the colour of my chopping board. It's a little bit lighter in places, a little bit of white in with that. That's too light, it's going a bit darker. And just using a nice sort of synthetic brush that I can work that in quite quickly with. Now, what I'm looking at here is obviously got some colour and tone for the board, the chopping board. Look a little bit in here. In some areas there's some shadows, so there's a little bit of cast shadow. So I just want to darken it a little bit here and here. The light's coming across this way. So I just add a tiny bit of blue and red in with that, just to make that a little bit darker. So I just want to kind of off. Yeah, so certainly up here, the shadow to me is slightly purple, just here. And while the paint's still wet, I can blend that in a little bit. And then around here it's a little bit yellower, just add a little bit more of the raw sienna back in. So that would work quite nicely with the shadows. Obviously I'll do the same this side, but I will just keep a little bit of a section going through here. There. The peppers themselves, I'm just looking at what kind of reds to use. So this is some sort of crimson, some other crimson here. Let's try a little bit of that. And this is sort of, I used a little bit of the cadmium orange and the crimson mixed together, I think. So quite, again, most of this is in shadow here. This is quite a darkish red. So I think a little bit of blue mixed in with that, just to make that a little bit ultramarine blue, make that a little bit more in shadow on this side. And then I'll vary it slightly, it's a little bit lighter there, but while that's still wet so I can blend some of that in, and then go back to the slightly darker bit. A little bit orangey, yeah, so just add a little bit more of the cadmium orange in. Quite a nice sort of pepper shape. And again, the same here, this is a little bit more orangey. Yeah, and a tiny bit of shadow. That's a little bit too bright, darken that a tiny bit. So that's quite a bit of the outside shape. This section here is in shadow, so I've got a little bit darker. Again, a little bit of ultramarine blue mixed in with my two reds, the crimson and the orangey red. So that gives me the shadow area. So you can see in it.
Want to be on there?
A little bit lighter here. Yeah, a bit more orangey. So slightly working wet colours into wet colours, which is quite nice to do. I'm seeing here a sort of pithy colour. Right, so I just need to change the colour a little bit, so don't like to paint too wet, so I'll just dry that off. And I kind of want a sort of creamy colour for this bit here, so some white, a little bit of the raw sienna. I think that might be okay actually, go for that. Yep. Yeah, I think white and raw sienna is enough for that. It's quite bright here. And then as we work way down, it becomes just slightly pinkier. So we'll just add a tiny bit of the pinky colour into there. Tricky bit can be the seeds, isn't it? And then this area is in shadow. So I'm going to go dark again. I'll just wipe that paint off and just mix it into something a little bit darker. Make a bit of brown. And a little bit of raw sienna. Like that. Like that for the shadows. A bit darker still just here. So a tiny bit of brown, just doing that. So it's really just kind of looking for areas of light and dark. Blend that into there. And I just want a darker edge here. And, I mean, so far I've used two reasonably big brushes. I haven't gone in for anything too detailed, so it's quite nice to start with the bigger brushes and then gradually work a little bit smaller. And the final bit would be to get these something to sort of suggest these little seeds in there. And I can also go to a darker shadow just under here. That will hopefully get that to feel like it's sitting on the surface. And the same here. A little bit darker in there. Like that. I think for the seeds, that's where we'll go to a smaller brush. So this is just like a little, I think a little round brush. Got some smaller marks, and I'm not going to try and replicate the shape of every seed, but just try and make a few marks that suggest that there are seeds present, there's something in there. So that would be the darker shadowy bits. And then there's just one or two that stand out. Individual seeds. I'm going to need to rest just a little bit there so I don't wobble too much. Just a few dots and dashes. Get too light with those, just make that a little bit darker with the raw sienna. One, two highlights. So hopefully that's well on its way to suggesting, yeah, and that's obviously if I worked into that more than 12 minutes of African painting, yeah, I could then work a little bit more detail, or I could pop this stalk in, refine the shapes a little bit. Might be little areas that I could put these in, actually little bits of highlight here and there, sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, the basic idea is start sort of bigger, and being acrylics, this dries quite quickly, so if you're making mistakes, you can kind of overpaint quite quickly. Any questions? Okay, so yeah, as I say, you're very welcome to keep going with this project for a little bit longer if you want to do that this week, next week, whatever. But I'll start again, having a look at maybe winter skiing, snow, that sort of thing. If you've got any references, and then as the month goes on, do a little bit on animals as well. Not quite sure what I can do there. So,
Cows.
Yeah, I do cows. I could do my greyhound with a coat on. I do. Right, okay.